The Oxford Dictionary gives the word monster two definitions. One being an imaginary creature that is typically large, ugly, and frightening, and the other is an inhumanly cruel or wicked person. Both of these definitions are seen in movies and TV all the time, and we're used to them. We know what monsters are. But do we know what makes a good one? What sets the good monsters apart from the bad ones? I don't mean good in the moral sense, I mean good as in quality. What makes a quality monster? And to dive a little deeper, what makes a quality monster movie? Actually, no, not just quality. What makes a perfect monster movie? That is the question I'm going to try to answer today. So hit the lights, sit back, and prepare to explore one of the oldest antagonists in film, the monster. So to start off, let's go over what a monster movie is at its core. A monster movie, in the sense of this essay at least, is a movie that features a monster. But having a monster doesn't automatically make a monster movie perfect, it doesn't even automatically make it decent. I've thought about what is most integral to quality monster films, and I tried to find what they have in common. I eventually decided on 3 central values you should be able to find in almost every good monster movie. Let me explain them to you. Number 1. The monster is unusual or unnatural. It has to be something you don't see every day. Maybe it starts out like an American Werewolf in London, with a monster that just isn't a monster yet, but eventually all films of this nature feature a monster that is beyond what we see in an average day. Now this can still mean human, but a monstrous human must have at least monstrous qualities. Take 7 for example. The main antagonist is just a man.
Detective! You're looking for me.
His monstrous traits lie inside, and this becomes clear throughout the duration of the film, as we see just how truly twisted this man is. A personal favorite of mine, It Follows, gives a little twist on this unspoken tradition of monster movies by making the monster's appearance constantly change, while never departing from one familiar form, the human body. In the film, our protagonist Jay is past a sexually transmitted demon. This demon, however, doesn't chase her down or crawl out of her TV. It just follows. Wherever she is, it is walking straight for her, which seems like it would be easy enough to avoid. However, the monster has an edge. It can shapeshift to look like someone she knows, or even a stranger if it so pleases. In each form it takes, it still looks human, but that's its tool of deception, because if it ever does catch up with her, well, you get the idea. Basically, a good monster movie has to have something that looks like a monster, or something that acts like one. The next value is a victim. The monster needs to be hurting someone or something. This hurt can be emotional, mental, and of course, physical. Whether someone is being psychologically tormented by some being outside of their understanding, like in The Babadook, or Insidious, or physically strangled to death, like in Halloween.
Come on out.
There must be a recipient of the monster's monstrous traits. Also, the victim doesn't have to be one singular element, and it rarely is. Oftentimes, a monster is plaguing a group of friends, or a family, like in Lights Out. Typically, there will be 1 or 2 central victims who stand out because of their importance in the story, but either way, good monster movies give us reasons to be afraid of the monster by showing us its victims. Oftentimes, the victim will be somebody we care about, which sort of leads into value number 3. The third value is a drive. The drive can be many things, from the reason why the monster is killing people to the reason our protagonist needs to succeed. The drive can be the motivation for just about anything in a monster movie, but there needs to be one. Good monster movies take advantage of this value by giving us significant reasons to want the protagonist to succeed. Typical monster movies will use the classic, I don't want to die drive, but good monster movies build on this. They make the concept less simple and add some depth. One very good example of this is in Pacific Rim. Towards the end of the film, the protagonists discover a way to close the portal that allows the giant kaiju monsters to enter our world. We also find out that if they don't close it, the amount of kaijus that will come through will surely end all life on Earth. Under that layer of depth, you can still see the basic, the protagonist doesn't want to die drive, but now it's bigger. Now it's, the protagonist doesn't want the human race to die, and that right there is drive. Now, don't get me wrong, there are good monster movies out there that don't feature all three of these. Some of my favorites only feature one or two of the three, and that's okay. Sometimes, pulling off two of the values incredibly well has a better effect than using three of the values just decently. I will say, though, that these three core values work as groundwork for any good monster movie. It's tough to find an enjoyable monster film that features none of the values I've discussed today, and that's because monster movies are typically done rather well. Sure, there are some exceptions.
I'll tear this thing apart with my bare hands!
But anyways, the final point I have to make is that almost every monster movie I watch these days and enjoy shares at least a couple of these traits, and that's because they work. Directors and writers who decide to make monster movies are doing it because they love monster movies. They know what they loved in the monster movies of their childhood, and they want to try and build on that, with the three main values as groundwork. We need a monster, we need a victim, and we need a drive. These qualities make monster movies so likable, and the variety that some directors have brought to this formula has shown just how expandable the monster movie genre can be. These three traits, if used well, almost guarantee a good monster movie. But, if a director or writer can come up with a new way to make these elements seem new, to give the concept of a monster movie a redux, now that is something special. When a production team can take a 1,000-year-old storytelling technique, the monster, and give it new life using new unheard variations of these classic common values, if they can find a way to tell us a new story from an old book, now that is what makes a perfect monster movie.